Welcome back, everybody. Today in the Atmos Live studio, we have Mr. Gary Aldridge in the studio. Thank you for coming today, Gary.
Thank you, James. I appreciate you having me here.
All right, so today we wanted to go over just a little bit about what makes Gary, Gary. For over 30 years, Gary has worked as a CFO and a senior financial executive in privately held companies ranging from anywhere from $500,000 to $100 million in revenue. That's a pretty big feat, I feel like. A lot of people probably never see those numbers.
It's a big spread from startups to over $100 million. So a lot of the processes are the same. A lot of the concepts are the same. It's just the zeros are different. That's the difference in it. Yeah.
That's wild. So what made you want to be, and when did you first decide to be a CFO?
Well, at first I didn't know what a CFO was. So this started, believe it or not, when I was about 5 years old, and I was watching my older siblings playing a game of Monopoly, and I was 5. My sister was 9, my brother was 12, and I wanted to play with them, and they wouldn't let me, and I kept being persistent and kind of pushing my way in the game. And they said, "You're too young, you don't understand this," but I've been watching them. So finally they said, "Yeah, we'll let him play." And I could tell something was up, and so we start playing the game, and I'm buying properties, and they'd land on my property and owe me rent, and they would try to shortchange me. They didn't think I could add. And they'd say, I'd say, "Well, you owe me, whatever, $20. Maybe they'd give me $12. And I'd say, "No, you owe me $8 more." And I did that a few times. And I remember my sister looking up at my brother going like, "I think we're in trouble."
We've created a monster.
Yeah. That's the only thing in my life I ever beat them, any game or sport or anything. They're both very, very smart people, a lot smarter than I am. But I loved games. I loved figuring out the games. And once I knew the rules, then playing those, and I would play to win. And had every board game that kids could have back in the day when kids had board games and not iPads and iPhones. And I won most of the time. Yeah.
Well, it's crazy to hear, and it may be to somebody else, not to me, how calculated you were even as a child, right? You are a prime example of someone who has done nothing on a whim. Everything is very well thought out and planned, even from your childhood era. And that's kind of cool to see.
Yeah. So then, as I got up and went through school, all the math classes, my eyes would light up. And so I looked at it as everything as a competition. I wanted to get it done faster, more accurate than anybody. And I got to where I could do most of it in my head. And so I could beat most anybody at it back then. So,
even now on your worst day, you'll beat most people in that. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Most of the time I can. Yeah.
So, okay, you've got 30 years of experience being a CFO and a senior financial executive. What industries have you worked with over your 30-year tenure?
A lot. Worked in telecommunications, hospitality, nonprofits, manufacturing, fabrication, solar energy, some distribution, oil and gas, staffing, professional services. List kind of goes on, but I've worked in a lot of different industries.
If you had to pick one, what would be your favorite industry to work within?
Oh, that's a good question. I like the professional services just because I'm a CPA by trade, so I get the part of hiring staff of people, and you're paying them, you're charging them out, usually at hourly rates or monthly flat rates and things like that. So I like that. There's a challenge to working out processes, and when we talk about, we'll get to this in a little bit about leveraging you. Businesses scale through people, processes, and technology, so those are the things I understand the most. So I like those and kind of gravitate toward them.
So here's a question. Out of all of those industries, bouncing from industry to industry to industry, like your job title is technically the same, does the industry itself have an impact on how you come in and how you're able to do your job, or is it pretty cut and dry?
Every industry is different, and every company is different within that industry. So when I go into a client, I'm starting with a fresh set of eyes, and I get a bunch of numbers, and and then after I'm looking at them and analyzing them, then it just kind of all comes to me. It's kind of like, in a strange sense, like playing music by ear. Okay, so I get the numbers and put them together, and they make sense, and then. More so than I think a lot of, because there are a lot of accountants, CPAs, a lot of bean counters and stuff, but they could put the right beans in the right bucket. But the big question is, so what? So what do you do with this? And so I always ask myself that, all the time. It's not just, does everything add up? Yeah, it adds up. So what? So what do I do with that? So what happened yesterday? Now what do I do tomorrow? And that's the challenge. And that's what I try to get people to do with them all the time.
Well, I feel like that separates. It's one of the reasons that it separates you from the pack.
I hope so.
All right, so let's jump into this a little bit. Can you share what the inspiration behind transitioning from a CFO and a senior financial executive into starting up your own company, Aldridge Valuation Advisors?
Sure. I like working by myself, but I got to a point where my plate was getting pretty full, being blessed and getting some work, getting some clients. So then naturally you start thinking about, well, how do I grow the business? How do I scale? And for me, I had two options, right? I could either what I call leverage down, meaning I could go hire people, then I've got to go get work and they do the work and I review it and all that kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of people do it. A lot of attorneys, CPAs, insurance people, a lot of people do that. Nothing wrong with that. I just didn't have any interest in doing that.
That's fair.
So I just thought, well, it's adding a lot of overhead, a lot of burden, and I've just got to constantly be out there hunting all the time. So then I thought, how can I leverage up? And I thought, well, I'll take my 30 years of experience and knowledge, worked in a lot of things, seen a lot of things, done a lot of things, and thought, I'm going to try to package that in a way where I can market that. And then more than financially, it's about having an impact on lives of people. And, if I'm working solo, I can work with a handful of people at one time. If I had a staff of people, I can work maybe with a few more people. But the SBA says there's 30 million small businesses in the U.S.
Wow.
Okay. And 90% of those do not exceed $1 million in revenue. 99% of them don't exceed 10 million in revenue. And those are the very people that need somebody with some financial experience, which is a lot of times kind of expensive for them to add on. Either full-time is not an option, even part-time can be expensive. So I wanted to put together a curriculum that they could afford and they could take and make it something they could watch and do themselves. So that was the inspiration behind leveraging me by leveraging up. And then now I'm teaching people how to leverage you. That's where the name Leveraging You comes from.
Now let's talk about some of the challenges that you had to work through while you were working with those companies that range from the 500 range to the 100 million. Are the challenges any different? Are they kind of similar?
The concepts are similar. Okay. It's just the numbers are different. Usually the challenges kind of revolve back around the people,
Right.
Of course you have larger companies, of course, $10 million companies got more people than a solopreneur, and $100 million got more people too. So it's working with the people and navigating through that because everybody's got different personalities, different egos, different strengths and weaknesses, different temperaments. Okay. Sure. So every time I go into a client, I got to reset. I got to learn. A lot on the front is a lot of asking, a lot of watching and listening and learning what I need to do to mold into them, right? Instead of getting them to do things the way I want. It's like trying to figure out what's the best way that I can be to help them do what they need to do. And sometimes they think, well, we've always done it this way, which is a red flag to me that's a great opportunity to change and to challenge that, right? So
right. Just
because you've done it that way, that's not necessarily a good reason to do it. It's a good reason for me to challenge it. So, well, how can we make it better?
Right.
So, so ask a lot of questions and observe and just try to figure out the best way to fit into their corporate culture so I can get more value out of the business. That's what I'm locked on. So I'm actually really obsessed with is growing value in businesses. For me, it kind of gets back to those games when I was a kid. It's learning the rules of the business and the industry, and then once you learn those rules, then it's just I'm just buzzing through. I'm going. Sometimes I'll work too fast, and I've got to slow down and kind of be patient, kind of explain things and make sure everybody's on board. So. Once I get it, then I'm usually churning through it pretty quickly.
I feel like regardless of industry, building that rapport with whoever your client is the most important step to understanding what their pain is.
It is.
Right? Because if you just breeze over who they are and you don't take the time to learn, your shtick doesn't matter because it may not fit their situation.
I've got to earn their trust. That's a huge thing, and it's a real feel good for me when somebody says, "I trust you."
Right.
Gary, I trust you, so that's a really big thing for me. And I've got to earn that, right? I don't get it because I walk in the door. I've got to earn that, and that takes time. Everybody today talks about being that trusted advisor. So try to be somebody who will do what I say I'm going to do, right? When I say I'm going to do it, and do that over time, over and over and over again, then you start earning that trust. When you're working with a business owner, they've got certain strengths, and they may not be strong in everything.
Can't be good at everything.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm certainly not. I like to think I know what I'm pretty good at doing, but I know what I'm not good at doing. And I'll bring in other subject matter experts that do what they do, whether it's in technology or human resources or sales and marketing, right? So I try to stay in my lane and supplement. And so when business owners, the best business owners that I've worked with in the last 30 years are the ones that know what they know and know what they don't know.
And that's key.
It's key. And then the ones that are willing to admit that and then bring other subject matter experts around them to supplement what they need, it's a very powerful leader. It's very powerful.
Well, you're only as strong as the team members around you, right? And if you fill your team with people that know less than you do, that are not on the equal playing field that you are on, then you're setting yourself up for failure, right? Like you want to be, for lack of better words, you want to be the dumbest person in the room. That's how you grow.
That's right. That's what Bear Bryant used to say. He wanted to be the dumbest person in the room. Of course, he was not the dumbest person in the room, but to that point, he wanted to surround himself with people that were extremely knowledgeable about what they do. And there are, several business owners like that say, "Hey, I want to surround myself." The strongest leaders surround themselves with other strong people and let them do what they do well. And you got a very powerful team. Unfortunately, there's some other business owners that they don't like that, and they're very insecure. So they bring people around them that are not as strong, and then they end up being kind of doormats to do what the owner wants, and they get what they want, but they don't grow the value of their business as much as they could with a stronger team. I mean, just look at a sports team. The teams with the best talent usually win over and over and over again. And I've heard this mantra that great talent is what makes coaches great, not the other way around.
Yeah, you're right.
So you look at the teams that win consistently over and over and over again, it's because they got the best talent. That's the same in business too.
Well, honestly, too, I think that's the difference between someone who owns a business to have a personal playground and someone who's trying to turn it into something reputable, a legacy to pass down.
That's right. They'll want to make a difference in the community. Also, not only in their immediate family, if they have family members working there, but in the people that work with them and for them in the company. They want to touch those lives.
That's very unique. Now, and this is off topic a little bit, what would the perfect model look like for you when it comes to finding new clients? Like, what would your perfect client profile be?
Well, one that came to me a few years ago, and he said, "Gary, I want to exit my business in X years, and I want to exit at this price because I want to walk away net with this amount of money. Okay, after broker fees, after commissions, after paying off all my debt, after paying all my taxes, after everybody is paid off, I want this amount of money. Now you show me how to get there." That's perfect. And so, thankfully we've been able to work together for about maybe 4 years. The values increased pretty well, and now we're looking at that, to see if we can get that value that he wanted originally. But we're knocking on that door now, so that's a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
It is. It's amazing, and it's a lot of fun. That's not even work. That's just fun. Yeah.
Well, be on the lookout for some testimonials coming soon.
I hope so. We're going to track them down. That's right.
All right. So you moved to Nashville, Tennessee a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
What motivated your move to Nashville, and how has the move influenced your business journey?
Well, moving here was a personal choice. About 7 years ago, I moved to Nashville. We needed to move my mom into assisted living. That was in Huntsville, Alabama, because my sister lived there. I didn't want to be 5 hours away. I'd been 5 minutes away for 25 years, and I was really close to her. So I just didn't want to move to Huntsville. Didn't know where to move. I thought about Birmingham because that's close. And then, I've got a younger son, your younger brother, who's a drummer, and his passion was music. That sounded like Nashville to me. So I didn't know anything about Nashville other than they called it Music City. So I decided to move to Nashville. I literally got in my car in February of 16. I knew two people here that I had not seen in 10 and 35 years, respectively.
Wow.
And on the way, I was on I-20 headed to Meridian on my way up through Birmingham. And I called them on the way and said, I'm moving to Nashville. I don't know anything about it, and you're going to help me figure this out. And they did. And so, I got a job, worked there, worked with the place for about a year, and then went back out on my own. So, I wanted to be closer to my mom and sister in Huntsville. I wanted to have an opportunity to bring my younger son up here to pursue his passion in music. And then as a bonus, then about 18 months ago, we got you up here as well. And so everything's just worked out. It's just been great.
I tell you, though, I mean, honestly, the move up here has been tremendous for me personally, much less the rest of our family.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Yeah, it is. I love it. I love living in Nashville. Even after 7 years, I haven't even seen half of it. I mean, just so much to see and do. You could go see something every night if you wanted to.
Right.
But there's a lot left to do, and I'm looking forward to doing it.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about how did your 30 years of experience shape your perspective on the leveraging down versus the leveraging up side of your curriculum?
Well, for me, I got to a point where, and I thought about this a few years ago when I turned 60, a few years ago. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm entering the fourth quarter. And a lot of things that used to be important to me weren't as important anymore. What was important to me was making an impact and touching lives. And like I said before, I could work with a handful of businesses on my own. I could have a staff and work with maybe a few more, maybe 10, 20, 30, or I could touch thousands, And so that way, with the internet and with digital marketing and all that, then I began to ask and, what do I need to do? And I've talked to some people around here, and we decided to put this course together because this way I can literally touch thousands of lives and maybe even 1 million. And so what does that mean? That means I could actually teach 1 million business owners how to increase the value of their business for themselves, for their family, for their employees, and that's touching a lot of lives. So that's my passion, is about doing that.
To be honest, too, if we were not living in such a digital age, it would be astronomically more difficult to do that.
It would. It really would. But now with technology, I mean, look at us. We've got a studio in our home, and so we're doing a lot of things now. A lot of people are seeing it that I don't know how they would have seen it before.
Correct.
And now, also because of the digital market, we make it extremely affordable. Whereas we couldn't before. But now somebody can buy it online for, as little as $29 a month, and they can get access to 30 years of my experience and testimonials and all that kind of stuff. So we'll get into all that.
For less than $1 a day.
That's right.
That's wild.
That's right. Less than a bottle of water.
We'll let you get a sip in, and then I've got another question ready for you. Okay, so let's talk about some of the challenges that you faced when deciding how to scale AVA and what you did to overcome those challenges.
Well, the challenge is how to take what's up in here and put it into some medium that we can get out there. And I did not know how to do that. So I had to talk with other people that were, more knowledgeable in that space than I was. And, you could think about writing a book or doing this or that, which this may all and will turn into a book. But I just thought about the things that would appeal to me as a business owner, and I wanted to. So, I'm pretty highly analytical and logical in how I put all this stuff together. So I just started putting those steps together in my head about what makes a business value go up. And I spent some time and did a few iterations of that and came up with the wheel, 12 chapters, 12 steps that are on my, didn't start out trying to make it 12 steps, but that's what it is. And it made sense to me. And then I wanted to make it where it was small enough, but like I wanted to make it bite size. So instead of having, an 8-hour session, I can't pay attention for 8 hours. You could be the best teacher on the planet, and I can't watch it for 8 hours. I can't. I mean, I've been forced to sit through those before, and I'm like, I can't. I don't know what they're talking
You only retain to a certain point, and then after that, it's like almost like your body refuses
about.
to retain anything else. You're just burnt out.
And for me, I mean, if you can't make your point in 20 or 30 minutes, then you probably can't make it in 2 or 3 hours.
Much less 8. Yeah.
So I limited each of the 12 chapters, they're actually 15 videos, to 20 minutes because I wanted it to be something they could watch over lunch while they're eating a sandwich, during a coffee break. They could listen to it on their way home to or from work. So there are plenty of opportunities where you've got 20 minutes where you can get content and without a lot of fluff. I mean, it is like drinking water from a fire hose, but it is straight content for 20 minutes. And any one of those videos, you'll get something out of it where you could say, hey, that I could apply that in my business.
Well, okay. So let's talk a little bit about, and you mentioned this earlier, but what really made you decide to transition from doing the work yourself to teaching people? I know you were able to reach more people by putting curriculum together, but what was that pivotal moment where it just clicked in your mind, like, I need to be doing it this way?
Well, some years ago, I got into teaching, which is another personal story, which is not something that I sought out, but a friend actually coerced me into teaching against my will. And he was a pastor, a friend of mine, and wanted me to teach adult Sunday school in our church. And I thought, I can't do that. I mean, I'm not a pastor. I've not been to seminary. You've got so many other better educated people in that field that can do that. And he said, no, I want you to do it. And he wouldn't let up. So finally I agreed to do it, and it scared me to death. And I was in knots about it, literally. And so being the obsessive compulsive type that I am, I overstudied and I would pick a topic or chapter and read everything I possibly could about it. And then I'd try to present it in a way that was easy to understand, instead of trying to be, overly complicated, which unfortunately people in different spaces do. I said, here's what's important in this passage, in this verse, in this chapter. And a lot of it I did inductive. I said, in fact, when I started it, I said, I'm going to teach this totally different than what you're used to. You're used to somebody standing up here and talking to you in a monologue for 20 or 30 minutes, and I'm not going to do that. So one, because I can't, and two, because I think we'll learn better if we're talking together. So it took a while to get them to buy in, but once they did, they really bought in, and then it grew, and it kind of caught fire.
Well, it's really cool to see somebody who saw something in you didn't see yourself set you up to succeed with a little bit of work, right?
I did. I had to work at it, and it took me a while, to work out my pattern and format and structure and delivery. Had to learn inflection and patience, and how to manage a crowd and manage a conversation and a dialogue among several people. And because then what happens is somebody's going to say something that you hadn't prepared for.
Right.
and it's scary. So, but I learned how to do that. And then I started getting good feedback, positive reinforcement, and that kind of built itself over time. And if I hadn't done that, then I wouldn't be doing this.
It's crazy from point A to B to C, how that all works out.
Yeah. Who would have thought, but that led into that. I thought, well, maybe I can. So.
All right. So the next section here, we're going to deep dive into all things leveraging you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So what is the target market for the Leveraging You course?
Well, the SBA says there are 30 million small businesses in the U.S., and they define that as having fewer than 500 employees. 90% of those have less than $1 million in revenue. 99% have less than $10 million in revenue. That's the market. It's those businesses that have less than $10 million in revenue. because a full-time CFO, depending on the market and the industry and location, all that kind of stuff, can be pretty expensive for a small business to take on full-time, and they can't, it's a big burden, a big cost.
Right.
Even to get one fractional or part-time can be expensive if you've only got $1 million.
Right.
Okay. Well, 90% of 30 million is 27 million. There's a lot of businesses that can't even afford a fractional CFO. So we've tried a couple different models to promote leveraging you as a course, and now we're going to make it really affordable. So we came down. That's where I thought about less than $1 a day. So if you got $29, I mean, you spend that on a lunch. Maybe lunch for two or whatever. A bottle of water a day, a cup of coffee a day, for $1 a day, you can make that kind of investment and get not only you can get many times of the investment, but you can increase the value of your business by, the return is it's astronomical. And I'll give you some examples of those from some clients I've worked with. One, when we started, because one thing I do is business valuations, right? So I'm a valuation expert. So, and I love doing that. Like, what's the value of a business? What's it worth? Because isn't that the point?
Right.
Isn't that the point to drive the value of your business up? If it's not, why isn't it?
Right. Right.
Then why are you?
There's a whole deeper level of question at that point.
If you're just working to get yourself a paycheck, then you really own your own job.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what it is. Nothing wrong with that. But, 70% of businesses do not sell. Okay. Only 30% sell. So why is that? Well, there are a number of reasons for that. But why wouldn't you want to sell it? Why wouldn't you want to maximize the value of your business so you can get a bump at the end? So you work for 20 or 30 years, 10, 20, 30 years, and you want to close the doors? That just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't.
So why wouldn't you build it for a buyer in mind? And so that's why we start out with, the very first video is about changing your mindset from that of I own my own job to I want to build this for a buyer. That's the hardest transition to get a business owner to make. Once they make that, the rest of it actually falls into place pretty easily. So, I just wanted them to do that.
I think some of that probably comes from the majority of business owners not going to college for business. A lot of people wake up one day and realize they're pretty good at something and want to make a business out of it. And if you're coming at it from that standpoint, you're building on what you're good at to become better, to work a job with it pretty much, right? A lot of people haven't hit that tipping point where they even think about what is scaling? What is my end-term goal here,
Right. Now, I've worked with guys that, they never went to college.
Right.
Or maybe they went for a semester and, it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
So they had to find something to do, whether it was landscaping or welding or working in a restaurant. Those are three real world examples. And I've worked for all three of them. Or recycling. There's a fourth one. And they didn't go to college. And it's not because they couldn't do it. They're some of the smartest people I've ever known, and I was telling one that I said, the smartest owners that I've ever worked with has nothing to do with the number of degrees they have or letters after their name. It has to do with they know what they know. They do it extremely well. They know what they don't know. And then they surround themselves with people that do. And those people are very powerful. And they made a lot more money than I have, but, they've also brought me in to be the subject matter expert where they're not, and they listened and they did that. And so now they're reaping the rewards of that, and I'm happy for them.
Right. Okay. So what do you think what type of business owners will benefit best from leveraging you?
The ones that want to maximize the value of the business, but they're not exactly sure how. Okay. They want to maximize cash flow in their business, but they're not exactly sure how. Everybody thinks about sales. Okay. There are tons of sales programs out there. Okay. You can't get on the internet or Facebook or Google without seeing somebody want to tell you how to increase sales. Plenty of that. That's part of value, but it's a small part of value. Okay. Or want to grow your business. I don't even know what that means. You just want to make a bigger business. Well, making a bigger business consumes a lot of cash. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't grow business without, you better find some cash to grow that business. So we talk about value, because that's what buyers are buying.
Right.
When you go buy a product in the local community, whether you go to Kroger or Walmart or wherever it is you're going to go, you're looking for value, right? Well, that's what the business buyers want too. And they want to buy your business like why? Answer that question. So we start out with flipping that mindset around. Now, if you think about your business as a buyer, why would you buy it? And then what would you do with it if you bought it? Well, if you were going to make changes to it as the buyer, why don't you make those now? Then you reap the benefit of that increase in value.
Right.
So that's where the whole thing started. And that logically makes sense to me. If I could get them to think, okay, I'm going to build this for a buyer. Here's a case in point. Talk with a business owner, and he tells me once upon a time, he says, I wouldn't sell my business for less than $5 million. I said, that's great. Then I asked the hard questions. What does the buyer get?
Yeah. What makes it worth that?
I'll write you a check for $5 million, which I cannot do, by the way. What do I get? And he couldn't answer the question. I said, because the answer to the question is, I don't get anything. You got a handful of people that work for you, and you are the straw that stirs the drink. But once the buyer comes in and buys it, then you're gone. Then I don't have anything.
Right.
So why would I pay you $5 million for it?
Right. Because you want that?
Because you want it? Well,
Right.
the buyer doesn't care what you want.
Right.
So I'm the one writing the check. What do I want? What do I get? What's in it for me? And so he didn't get it, so he didn't change his mindset. But if you can say, okay, now I got to make something sellable. Now, what do I need to do that? That's a better question. What makes the business sellable?
That is very interesting. Okay, so it's listed as a do-it-yourself course, right?
It is.
Now, do they need you to walk them through the course, or can anybody out there just walk themselves through this?
Anybody out there can watch 15 videos that are 20 minutes each, do some easy exercises that are downloadable, and you can do it yourself. Okay. Now we've got different level plans where you can step up and get some group coaching at a different level. You can step up and get one-on-one coaching from me at a different level. But I wrote it and I built it so the masses could do it themselves. So that's the way it was built for that intention.
Well, I really like the option of having the extra layers of help, right? From the community that you're building to the one-on-one coaching time that's available. That just goes to show you that anybody can take it, whether you're a self-started, super motivated individual who doesn't need any help, or you're just really not sure where to get started and you need a little bit of extra coaching. Having those different layers really, I think, helps.
It's there. The feedback I've gotten so far has been positive.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as you know, we got a beta test coming up now where we've got, about 10 people that are going to go through it and give me more feedback. And the purpose of that beta test is just to sharpen the saw, to make it better, make sure I'm communicating effectively and clearly so that they get the point, so they can implement it in their business.
Right.
And if I need to make any changes or tweaks to the course, then I'll do that. So I'm constantly working to tweak it and make it better. So all that's going on. All right. And we start that this week.
It's a lot of behind the scenes around this.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes. That's right.
All right. So how do you believe that the leveraging up section of your course will have a broader impact on small businesses compared to the traditional scaling methods?
I'll give you some testimonials that I've spoken with clients, and one, turned his business from, it was like $600,000-700,000 in value, and he sold about a year ago for $2.5 million.
Wow.
Okay. So how much is that worth to you?
Mm-hmm.
Another one where 4 years ago it was worth $700,000, and now it's worth several million. Okay.
It's a pretty significant increase.
How much is that worth to you? What's the return on that investment?
Right.
Another one that I worked with very recently who, just watched the first video. So here we are talking, and I'm working with her one-on-one. So what do you think about it? And she said, it makes perfect sense. So she went into it with a small business, less than $1 million in revenue, okay, struggling with cash flow, struggling to pay people, pay bills, and just trying to grind through the week and the month to get through it. Watched the first video and went, okay, now I can see a roadmap. I can see a pathway where I could actually sell this thing and walk away with some money. I said, right. So how much do you want to walk away with? She thought about it for a minute. She said, I want to walk away with X. I said, well, to get X, we've got to get more than that, because you got to pay taxes, you got to pay debt and that kind of stuff. And then we backed into what she needed to do to get there. And I said, is that realistic? Is that doable? She said, it's absolutely doable. So now she went from struggling, okay, we're still working through today, right?
Right.
But now, instead of thinking like, there's no hope, there's no path, there's no light, now she said, like, okay, I see what I'm working through today, but I know what I'm working toward now. I've got a 5-year runway, and I got to exit right there. Then I'm gonna get so much cash when I come out of it. And yeah, so we're going to work on that. So seeing that light bulb going off is like, for me, it's priceless.
Well, it's so helpful to have either someone or some set of guidelines to help you figure out, one, okay, this doesn't feel nice. That's a pain point. How many of these do we have? What do we need to work through to get to where we want to go? Because, like, I don't know, it's from my perspective, a young business owner, it is very chaotic trying to keep everything together, right? You're laying in bed at night and you're constantly wondering, did I respond to that email? Did I do this? Did I check that box? Did I send this out on time? You know? Right. And so to have somebody come in and help you, one, designate what your issues are, and two, help you work to putting together, a plan to help you through these pain points. And then obviously at the end of it, to grow once you've gotten your ducks in a row. That's beyond helpful, and that's priceless, really.
It is. I mean, and I look at one of the points I teach in there is that every dollar you spend, look at it as an investment.
Yeah.
Every dollar going out the door is an investment. Every dollar coming in is a return on investment.
Yeah.
Now, if you start looking at your expenses that way and your people that way, then it will help you manage your business, and you'll start looking at things as investment, return on investment, investment, return on investment. So, you
get what you put in at the end of the day.
You do. So, I mean, I've had people tell me, after going through it, that we should charge $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for the course. But if I did that, then all of a sudden 27 million people can't afford it.
Right.
And I'd rather touch masses of people, masses of lives than a handful.
Well, you're talking about impact. If you're able to touch, let's just say 10 million lives, what do you think the trickle-down effect is from 10 million people actively trying to change someone else's life?
That's right. So if I touch 1 million business owners, and they're all various sizes, but they have 10, it's not just their employees. Let's say they have 10 employees, but they're going to touch all their suppliers, all their vendors, and all their customers.
Right.
Now, how many is that? What kind of impact is that?
It's massive.
It is.
And it'd be hard to put a number on, really.
It's hard to measure.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm doing it.
Never one to back down from a challenge.
No.
All right. So tell me a little bit more about the process of creating Leveraging You. What inspired the course name and all of it to come together like it is?
Oh, well, the name, somebody on our marketing team came up with it, because we spent a lot of time on it, just drilling into the psychology behind, what I was trying to do and trying to touch lives. And, so many business owners, especially small business owners, are the business.
Right.
He or she is the salesperson. They're the driving force behind it. They're pushing product, they're pushing services, and they're stretched and stressed, and so they can only do that to some point before they burn out.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, they don't have anything that's sellable. So that just, thought like, well, how can I help alleviate that? And I thought, we thought about the concept of leverage, where, if I'm trying to pick up like a 500-pound weight, I can't do that. I'm not physically able. Right. But if I get a lever and a fulcrum, then I can use that lever to lift that 500 pounds. And so the lever became leverage and leveraging. So what are we trying to leverage? I'm trying to leverage you. So that's kind of the thought process where all that came from, was trying to help somebody. And our mission really is getting more product and services through your pipeline to your customer with less effort, with less stress, and less cost. That's leverage. That's how I defined it.
It's beautiful.
So why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to get more through the pipeline to your customers with less effort, less stress, and less cost? Why wouldn't you want to do that?
To not want to do that sounds insane.
Why would you not run to that?
Right. No, I don't know. I don't get it. All right. So you have over 60 real world lessons in your course. Is there one that really, really just stands out to you that you would like to share with us today?
Oh gosh.
I know that's tough.
That is tough. Well, they're all stories. I'm a storyteller, I've learned. Probably from watching a lot of Andy Griffith shows when I was a kid, because he was a storyteller. So I mean, there are a myriad of stories that I could talk about, and one comes to mind where, I'm working with a manufacturer and did a lot of work. So we're meeting with his team, about a dozen people, and we would go over every project, every dollar, every project, every week. To make sure every project made money. Because before I got there, they didn't always make money, but then after this we did. So we're talking, and all of a sudden I remember, because I got a quirky mind for math, right? I'm a math geek. So one week we're looking at this project manager's presenting all of his projects, materials, labor, gross profit, and all of a sudden I remember that same guy making the same presentation the week before, only this week it's $600,000 less.
Wow.
In a week. So I asked the question, there's a dozen people in the room. I asked the question, what happened? And he leans over to me and says, well, I think Johnny over there, he's kind of mumbling. I think Johnny over there made a mistake. And after this, I'll get with him and I'll let you know. And I said, no, you're the project manager. It is your job to know this before you walk in the room. This is an expensive meeting with 12 people in here, and you don't know the answer. He said, and then he just repeated, he says, well, I'll get with Johnny. I looked at the owner and I said, I need to meet with you after this meeting for 2 minutes. I stopped. I was really furious, but I stopped. So we got everybody out of the room, and I said, you need to fire this guy. He doesn't know what happened, and he doesn't care. I'm reading body language, which I learned to do along the way, kind of self-taught.
Yeah.
I don't think he stole the money. He just wasn't managing the projects.
Right.
He wasn't managing
Which
them
is
last week
equally
or
as
this week
bad
or next week.
for your business. Whether he took it or not doesn't matter. If he doesn't know where it was and he didn't, go out of his way to find out any more about it.
That's right.
The result is the same. You don't have it. You don't know where it is.
Didn't know where it was. Didn't care.
Yeah.
That's one person can make or break in a small business. One person can make or break your business. You cannot afford to carry people. You're not FedEx or IBM or Microsoft. You can't carry thousands of people.
Right.
Okay. So he ended up letting him go. Another lady did the same thing. She was a solopreneur, had one administrative assistant, and she's talking to me about all the bad things that this lady's not coming to work, not getting her work done. And we're like, and why are you telling me this? Why is she still here? You should have the conversation with her that says, tactfully, I need you to do these things. I need you to do them with this kind of result in this kind of time frame. Are you okay with that? You signing up for that. Now let's do that.
Right.
So communication is everything. We talk about that a lot. And I see a lot of, unfortunately, poor examples, lack of communication in the workplace. And so communication is a big thing. But you asked about stories, so I gave you one.
There we go. All right. Let's see here. So how did you choose? And I think you mentioned this earlier because of the attention span and everything, but what was your final deciding factor on choosing the format of 15 videos each about 20 minutes long. Was that on purpose or?
It was very intentional.
Okay.
So I literally wrote the scripts for each one of those and had, I said, help from some excellent people to edit those and make sure, because I had specific points I wanted to make within 20 minutes.
Right.
And I picked 20 minutes as my threshold because, again, I wanted someone to have the time to do that. If I say, hey, you got to watch this for 4 hours, like I'm out. I'm not
Right.
watching you for 4 hours. 20 minutes, I can listen to that going to work, or a cup of coffee in the morning or the afternoon or lunch. I've got 20 minutes while I'm eating a sandwich. I can watch 20 minutes. So I picked 20 minutes. It is jam packed with content for 20 minutes, and you're done. Now there are downloadable exercises which are easy, and the point of that is to take it a little deeper, just to get your hands dirty a little bit, to make you think a little bit, and then once you've watched it, and then once you've done it, then you'll implement it.
Right.
Then you say, hey, I can do this.
Right. Well, it spurs that thought of how can I align this to my situation?
Right.
These are my people. This is my situation. These are my things. Okay. Well, this is what Gary did to get through it. Okay. Real world example time. Let's, make this work together.
And a lot of the stuff in like the first half of the course is really not about the math.
Mm-hmm.
You think about CPA, MBA coming in, you're going to look at the numbers and those kind of stuff. We talk a lot about changing your mindset. We talk a lot about what's setting your target. What do you want? When do you want it? Now, how are you going to get there?
Right.
Okay. So those are the first 3 videos. Managing your KPIs, your key performance indicators. Now we start out kind of very big, and we just kind of start drilling down a little bit at a time, And then we talk about on the front end, how you scale with people, processes, and technology. It's not even on your financial statements. We spend a lot of time on that. There's 5 videos. There's 3 on people, 1 on processes, 1 on technology. In the course, and we've had some coaching sessions, I bring in I'm not a technologist, but I bring them in, and they talk about it. And then after that, after about 8 videos, the last 7 are about the numbers. We'll talk about, the income statement. We'll talk about how to increase sales and increase them profitably. Spend a lot of time on gross profit, because that's really the key metric, I think, in a business, which is overlooked. People think about sales. But I've worked with people that gave the store away. They didn't make any money because they wanted to get sales up, but they didn't price it right. So they didn't make any money on the front end. So they don't make any money on the back end, and then we work our way through. And then we'll spend time on the balance sheet. We'll talk about how you can see what kind of collateral ability you have, so you can go out and see what you can. I go into places all the time. I just picked up a client in the last couple of weeks where, they got a big asset on their books, accounts receivable, hadn't borrowed any money against that. So they can, if they need to, do that to help them, bridge that gap as far as cash flow goes. So we talk about a lot of that. And the last one's about risk management. And we talk about that, not from an insurance standpoint. I'm not an insurance salesman, but just customer concentration, vendor concentration. So there's in fact, one lady I was working with earlier, she said, it's like getting a full MBA course in 15 videos. I was like, yeah, kind of. So it's not just there's just so much stuff. There's so much content in there. You can't help but get something out of it that's going to help.
Well, yeah, I was just about to say, it sounds like anybody can take away a lot from this, depending on what you're interested in, what you can learn. I'd
be shocked if you could go through all that and not get anything out of it. I just don't believe it.
We'll refund you if it happens. That's wild. Okay, let's see here. Would you like to share any stories from your course that you believe would be particularly impactful for small business owners?
I'm going to go back. This is a real story about people, process, and technology. So working with one of my clients, and he went through the first part of it, and he just told me, first of all, he wanted to get a graphic of the wheel that's on the website. You can go to leveragingyou.com. You can see a copy of it. And he wanted to print it and put it on the wall.
Yeah.
Which we need to do, by the way. We need to make that. You can help me with merchandise and get that out there. But he said, Gary, every decision I make now, I think about the impact on people, processes, and technology. Bingo. Touchdown. That's the point.
Well, once you define it so clearly, you start to, by accident, notice that it literally falls in each bucket.
That's right.
You know, because it's been interesting on my end to go through the course and learn, you know, from the ground up and watch you put it all together. And in real time, as you are writing and, you know, producing all this content, I can directly relate it to my own life.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like everybody out there can do that, because I am nowhere near on the same level as you in terms of business, and I'm able to take things directly from your experience. So don't think just because you're not a CFO out there, you can't take this course. It doesn't matter what you're doing out there. It's for everyone.
A CFO, people stereotypically think of, you know, accounting, financial guy, numbers guy, and all that kind of stuff. But this course touches a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah.
There's really a lot more than that. You know, for me, when I'm working with a client, like getting the accounting stuff going is really the easy part. I mean, that's just paying bills and paying people, recording revenue. Okay. And every industry and company is different. I get all that. For me, that's the easy part. And the exciting part is getting involved in everything else. Everything a dollar touches, I get involved with, you know. So I'm going to be at the table. I want to be involved in all of it.
Yeah.
And I usually am.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about one of the things you've done, a couple of, but we'll be doing a lot more moving forward, and those are the Go Live webinars. What can people expect from that? Right.
Well, we just had one webinar recently. We got 2 more coming up. We're trying to, and they're free, so you can sign up for them. You can go to leveraging.com and sign up for them for free. The first one was about remote work productivity. Okay, so remote work is a thing now. It used to be a perk. Now it's required. And some people like it, some don't, and all that. So we talked through all that. Next one coming up is about cash flow management. How could you not want to know about that? And then in December, we're going to have kickstart of 2024. We're going to start, you know, kick the year off and the kinds of things you got to look out for. So I just want to keep my whole vision for this thing from the start was just to keep pouring more and more and more content into a big bucket, into a big reservoir, so business owners can say, I want that. I need that.
Right.
And just go that. And a lot of it, there's a lot of stuff in there that's free. There's a little stuff you got to pay for, you know, if you want that, but get the free stuff, you know, and let me know what you think about it. So, we'll put that together. We got the podcast series, which are free. So you don't have to hear me all the time. We bring in subject matter experts from M&A, private equity, business brokers, human resources, technology, sales, marketing. We're bringing in all these people that are subject matter experts in their field. They're not all in Nashville. They're all over the place. So, you know, and those are also bite size. They're 30 minutes. I cap them at 30 minutes. I may bring somebody back, but we cap them at 30 minutes. Why? So you can watch it while you're driving to work or listen to it while you're driving to work, getting coffee, lunch, driving home. So I keep them short and impactful.
All right. Well, what drove your decision to offer a free trial of the first 2 videos in your course?
Everybody likes free, you know.
Free's good.
Free's good. So why not? You know, if they like those, then then maybe they'll sign up for some more. So we'll do that.
You know, it's probably a pretty good idea to go ahead and give some of it away, because anybody can find something that they relate to directly within those videos.
Right. I think about this. This was a story I heard a long time ago, but it's true. Somebody, and I want to say it was down in New Orleans. I'm not sure about that. They were baking chocolate chip cookies at a cookie store. So what they did, they turned the ovens out on the sidewalk. So everybody walking by smells these warm chocolate chip cookies.
Can't help but go grab a dozen.
Who's not going to go in? And then they've got some free samples there, you know, and then they get that, then they go buy a dozen and they keep coming back. So it's kind of like giving people a taste, and if they like it, then they'll come back and they'll hopefully tell other people about it.
Your passion for growing value is very evident. Can you share an experience from your own career that ignited this passion within you?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know where it started, except maybe in that game of Monopoly.
This is my thing, and they owe me $8 on that 20.
That's right. You shorted me. I want my money. I just wanted to win, you know. But for me, it's more than just about money. It's about touching lives, you know.
Right.
There's There's a quote that I read several years ago. I can't remember where I read it. I can't remember who said it, but it stuck with me. The quote stuck with me, and it said that the only thing we leave behind in this world is the impact that we have on the lives around us. Our heirs will spend our money and give away our stuff, but the impact on lives that we make on the lives of others is what lives on forever. And so I thought, yeah,
Wow.
I want to touch lives.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, really. So if I can help you, the business owner, make your business more profitable for you, more profitable, less stressful, it's better for you, better for your family, and better for everybody that works with you.
Or that even comes in contact with you.
So I hope to touch lives that I'll never even know, I won't even know that they're out there. You know, but it's like, you throwing a pebble in a lake, and those ripples you just keep going out there.
The universe will feel it.
They will.
That's what's important here. All right. So how do you ensure that the content inside of Leveraging You remains fun and engaging for participants, given its educational nature?
Well, I try to be fun. I try to tell a lot of stories, and some of those are not easy to tell. Some of them, as I'm sharing, not only some success stories, but some that were failures. Mistakes on my part. So, if you can learn from my mistakes, then that's the cheapest way. That's the cheapest experience you can buy. So learn from someone else's mistakes, and I've made some. And I go into those in the course. I'm not going to tell you about them now. It'll be a teaser.
You'll have to get into the course.
You'll have to get into the course, specifically about people. I had to learn the hard way about how to work better with people. So there's a sample for you.
All right. So let's talk about success stories. Do you want to share any in particular that are from people who have already benefited from your course?
Well, we talked about a few. One where the value went from it's like $600,000 or $700,000 to $2.5 million, in 3-4 years.
Wow.
Is that successful? I think so.
Yeah.
For a guy who'd been in business for 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big change over
from $600,000-$700,000 to several million.
Yeah.
In 4 years. What's the return on investment there?
It's a lot.
It's touching a lot of lives. For a lady who's stressed about getting through the day and the week and the month to pay bills and not seeing a way out, now she has a clear path. And we're still working on the now, but she's got an eye toward tomorrow, and she's got a timeline, and she said, okay, I can get this value. We've got executable steps to take to get her there. So we can do it. We'll get by this hump, right now, and then we'll get past it and we'll get on. So those are 3 that come to mind right off the bat.
Pretty solid. All right. So how do you envision the future of Leveraging You and its impact on the small business community?
Well, hope to touch a lot of lives within a lot of businesses. We can get 1,000 subscribers next year and keep going from there. You can do the math at $29 a month. At some point, it could be a lot of money. And I want to turn around and I want to touch a lot of lives with that. I'm a simple guy. I don't need a lot of stuff. So I have plans for that, to turn that around and pump that back into some other things to touch more lives. And got a few ideas for that. Yeah.
Well, I have a question coming up about that.
Yeah.
So let's see here. How can small business owners best prepare themselves to maximize the benefits from your course?
I'd say come in with an open mind. That's really where it is. It starts there. In that first video, if you can change your mindset from that of a seller to that of a buyer, the rest will fall like dominoes. It really will.
Makes sense.
That's really the hardest part. To change that mindset and to be constructively objective about your business. And here's a key point: to detach yourself emotionally from your business.
There you go.
Because
and that's hard for a small business.
Really hard. You've been in business 10, 20, 30 years. You've got family members in there, friends in there.
Yeah.
But you got to detach yourself emotionally so you can look at it objectively as a buyer will. Because the buyer doesn't care.
About your emotional attachment.
About your emotional. They don't care you've been in business 10, 20, 30 years. They don't care about all the weekends you spent, all the nights you met, and all the events you know, and the stress on your family, and the money that you bought. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't. And I'll tell you that in the first video. All the buyer says is, I don't care. The buyer says, what's in it for me?
Mm-hmm.
How does what you have fit what I'm trying to do for me?
Right.
You know, now if you can make that change in your mindset, now you're powerful.
Right.
You're really powerful now. You can unleash that into your business and do it constructively.
Right.
Okay. So detaching yourself emotionally is really hard to do. Detach yourself emotionally, change your mindset, and then you can build for a buyer, and you're on your way.
If you could pass along one key message to all small business owners out there contemplating enrolling and leveraging you, or that have been looking for something like this to help them, what would that message be?
I'd say your business is it's really about touching lives. You know, yeah, you want to make money. People want stuff. Nothing wrong with that. People want a better lifestyle for themselves, for their family. Everybody wants that. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. But you have the opportunity to touch a lot of lives.
Yeah.
Your family, your employees, your customers, your suppliers, your community. You can touch a lot of lives with that.
Yeah.
That's the message.
It's beautiful. All right, we've come to the end here. It looks like I've got really 2 more questions for you. The first of which is, what are some things that you like to do outside of work?
You know what I've done in the past? I've done some things. You know, I'm originally from Jackson, Mississippi. Once upon a time, I was involved in some of the inner city ministries going on there. I was involved on the boards. We're being a treasurer, doing stuff like that. I really enjoyed that, trying to help the community. I had a chapter in my life where I got involved in triathlons. It's a whole nother story. Did that for about 5 years. I did 23 triathlons, including 2 full Ironman triathlons. Some good stories with that about perseverance and not quitting. Those are really great. Made some really good friends doing that.
Now, for people that don't know, how big is an Ironman?
An Ironman triathlon starts with a 2.4 mile swim. And when I started, I could not swim.
It's a predicament if I've ever heard
it's
one.
It's kind of a, like, how do you that? So there's another story there. Then you do a 112-mile bike ride.
Good grief.
Through usually rolling terrain. You know, it'd be great if it was 112 miles downhill, but it doesn't work that way. Then you finish it off with a marathon run. Then you start at 7 in the morning, and you have to finish by midnight.
Yeah, you'd have to cart me off the course on any one of those 3. So kudos to you for training and working, persevering.
They
all that.
literally do cart some people off.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, the first one I did, it was in Arizona, and the heat was 97 degrees. Now, being from Mississippi, I thought, well, this is a nice warm day. I was kind of used to it. Out of 2,000 people, 600 people got a DNF or did not finish.
Wow.
So they got carted off the course.
Wow.
And there were tents that were full of people flat on their back getting IVs when I finished, you know. So, but I finished 2 full Ironmans, 6 half Ironmans. And then I did some mission trips through my church. I had some fabulous trips. I went to Ukraine, went to Belize, went to Turkey. Had some wonderful experiences doing that. So that's all kind of in the past, right? So what am I doing now? Don't do triathlons anymore. I haven't done a mission trip in a while, but just recently been asked to be a board member of Courage Worldwide. Here's a plug for Courage. You can go to courageworldwide.org. I reconnected with a high school friend, and she started a ministry in California to help rescue young ladies out of human trafficking and sexual slavery. And I got hooked, and we had some chats, and so she's asked me to be on her board, and I'm excited about it. She has locations in the U.S. She has locations in Tanzania, Africa. As we speak today, she has 100 young ladies under her care.
Wow.
She has a big vision to put a safe house in like 1,000 cities and countries around the world, and I hope to be a part of that.
That's amazing.
That'd be a lot of fun. That would be a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of people and plugging things, are there any other businesses or associations that you want to speak about, and maybe some of the work they do?
There's another one that I'm passionate about. I'm not involved with it yet, but I'm hope to be, and that's called Third Mill. And these are some guys that I've met some time ago where they're basically training church leaders around the world. And they've done the research, they've done the math, and they're connected to like over 200 mission agencies around the world. Okay.
Wow.
And they say that we're like 7 million church leaders short by like 2030 or 2040 or 50 or whatever it is. So they are training
7 million church leaders.
We are short.
So that means 7 million churches out there without a leader.
Without a leader, yeah. So they've been in business several years. They're headquartered down in Florida. And they have already trained, I want to say, you can go to their website, thirdmill.org, and read all about it. It's a great website. It's very educational. Anyway, so they've trained, I want to say 1 or 2 million leaders already.
Wow.
Because the problem is people over there, wherever there is, it's expensive to bring them over here to study and train. Then when they get here, they don't want to go back.
Right.
And then when we send people over there and they don't want to stay there, they want to come back.
Right.
So this way, it's very cost effective to train people where they are.
Yeah.
So they don't have to leave their home and they can get the training for free.
It makes a lot of sense.
It's a great business model for a nonprofit Christian agency. So I hope to get involved with that too.
All right. And one last question.
Yep.
Do you recommend the Atmos Live studio for interviews?
Oh, absolutely. Our interviewer today is my oldest son, James. And so we live together here in the Nashville area. And we've converted, as you can see, a room in our house into the Atmos Live stream. And James has brought artists in here like Re-Up, like Twangin' Round, like Kevin Palmer. And, so he's done these interviews with people, and then he's pushed them out all over the digital space. And I've just like been elated to meet them. They have stayed in our home and I've got to know them. They're wonderful people, wonderful, talented musicians and artists. And so, so I'm real excited to see what you have and where you're going and the pipeline of work and interest that you're building. So if you are out there and you like this interview, then you can contact James Aldridge at Atmos Live, and you can do this as well for you and your business.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, and I really hope people are able to take more away from this than they came in with, on the front end, especially when it comes to leveraging you.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Thank you so much, James, for having me, and I appreciate it.
We will see you back again soon.
Thank you.